Hello. I wonder how anyone can take delight in somebody else's misery. And I posted a thing yesterday about Suella Braverman, and her dream. And her dream is that she will have a front page on the Telegraph, or in the Telegraph, celebrating a successful plane trip to Rwanda. Not hers, but in fact all those asylum seekers or immigrants who have arrived by the wrong route across the Channel to Britain, some of them looking for asylum, some of them who may indeed be worthy asylum seekers, but whose the process for appealing for asylum will not have started. Instead, they will be sent off to Rwanda even before that process starts because they have chosen to come here by the wrong route. Now, I think legally and morally that probably is wrong anyway, and I will continue to challenge it and to continue to question it. But I find the underlying assumptions really odd. Number one, why on earth would Braverman have such a dream? Why on earth would her slumbers be enmired in such nastiness? When I have a dream, generally it's quite positive. The other day I dreamt of meeting the Queen. Of course, the same night I also dreamt about President Putin. But, we can't have everything, can we? But when I think of having a dream, when I go to bed at night and I think, oh, I would like to have a nice dream, I'm not thinking of something nasty. I'm thinking of something positive. And yet her dream is predicated only on nastiness. It's as if she wants to fire herself up to be as evil as she possibly can be. And be in no doubt, I am quite far removed from somebody who would claim to be woke, though I am sympathetic to a lot of the so-called woke agendum. I am really shocked. I was shocked by Priti Patel, and now Suella Braverman has picked up that truncheon and she's wielding it with ferocity. How have we weaponized asylum and refugees? Because we're not the only country that has done this. How have we done this when all we have to do is turn to the Quran? We could turn to the pages of the Torah, to the Old Testament for Christians, to the New Testament for Christians, and it's all the way through there. And as we're looking at Yom Kippur, we ought to be mindful of the sin of inhospitality. The sin of inhospitality. Because it's for hospitality that Abraham is rewarded. It's the hospitality he shows the angels. The hospitality. His loving kindness, his chesed. And the same thing is true and advanced by Jesus in the New Testament and by all the fathers of the church. Hospitality. It's the hospitality which defined the early monks and the friars, and indeed the myriad imams, the Sufi mystics, and so on. It's their hospitality. It's the hospitality which is defined in Hinduism. It's the hospitality that is celebrated in Buddhism. The kindness to strangers, the kindness to others. Where did this disappear in our obsession with refugees and immigrants and with this implicit racism? I cannot believe it all came in on the back of UKIP and Mr. Farage. I cannot believe this. I don't want to believe this, though I certainly saw it in the members of the higher echelons of the UKIP membership. Certainly not in the ordinary people. I actively penetrated that organisation to see whether or not it really was as racist as people said it was, and it wasn't. It wasn't, but there was racism in the top levels. All those people who've come from slightly dodgy organisations, those organisations which really were racist, and they were all the way through UKIP, believe me. Although UKIP itself tried to dissociate itself from BNP and so on, they were there, and they spread that infection. Has it spread to the whole country? Has it spread around Europe? Where does this come from? Where does this othering of fellow humans come from? People are not responsible for being made refugees. People are not. People don't make a decision to seek asylum. They're forced into that because of the way they're treated in their own country for whatever reason. And we are signed up to a convention that in fact we partly initiated in 1951 to give hospitality to people who claim asylum, to at least look at their paperwork, not to prejudge them on the way they've come here, not to prejudge them on the colour of their skin or their ethnic origins. I think Suella Braverman doesn't intend to be a racist. I think she doesn't intend to scupper all the principles that define our modern civilization, those principles of hospitality, which actually are also there in ancient Greece and Roman civilizations. They're there already in Egyptian civilization. They're there in the Babylonian traditions. They're there in the traditions of the nomad in the desert. It underpins our whole concept of what it is to be human, to respond to the stranger among us, to be kind to those we don't know. And if we can't do that, and if our politics is screaming out a form of unkindness and a form of unfairness and a form of prejudging, then that belittles every other effort we make in our political life. We can't take law seriously if we are treating the stranger so badly. We can't take our leaders seriously if we are treating the people who come for us, who are the poorest of the poor, begging for our help in a boat, who come here with nothing. Yes, of course, there are brigands and cheats who are using the system and who are taking advantage of our hospitality. But until we do the paperwork, we will not know who they are. And that is the issue. And Suella Braverman and her predecessor, Priti Patel, seemed completely unimpressed with the idea that they need to get more civil servants to do the paperwork. We shouldn't be culling civil servants at this stage. We should be getting more of them. And if we don't want them in this department, we should bring them to the Home Office where they can do the job. Because I ask you, really, sorry, I'm sounding like some sort of politician now. Really, have you tried to get your passport renewed? Have you tried to help somebody get a visa to this country? It's a nightmare. Visas now, for some people, can take up to 8 or 9 weeks. That's absurd. That's absurd. Student visas, absurd. Student visas, by the way, that's one of our growth industries. And Mrs. May has been attacking it for, since she was Home Secretary. She was the person who brought in all this nastiness. Why? Because students are about the only people, the only foreigners we've got in the country who are properly and thoroughly registered. So, of course, attack them because it's easy bureaucracy. But that's not what our civilization is based on. Our civilization is not based on doing things which are convenient. Our civilization and our national character is based on being thorough and putting in the work and doing a good day's work for a good day's pay. Not shoving back the paperwork and saying, make a summary. Make a summary. And who do I care where Rostov-on-Don is? We've got some very, very strange people in power at the moment.